In the year 1847, the Parisian clockmaker Antoine Redier patented the very first adjustable mechanical alarm clock. He believed his elegant brass creation would liberate humanity. What nobody knew at the time was that this machine would destroy our sleep. His simple creation transformed the sacred human right to rest into a strictly controlled economic commodity. It sparked a silent global revolution. This delicate assembly of gears became a psychological whip. It allowed factory owners to colonize the human subconscious. This is not a simple story about keeping time. It is a dark chronicle of power, absolute bodily control, and global economic subjugation. Long before the industrial age, humanity belonged to the sky. Our ancestors rose with the morning sun and slept when darkness covered the earth. Their bodies obeyed the ancient circadian rhythms. This natural cycle was governed by the pineal gland and the slow release of melatonin. There were no deadlines. There were no mechanical sirens. Time was fluid and deeply connected to the changing seasons. In the winter, people slept for 12 hours. In the summer, they slept for 6. Survival depended on the harvest, not the minute hand. This was a world where sleep was a natural state of grace. Yet, even in antiquity, societies required some coordination. Ancient civilizations built ingenious devices to conquer the morning. The Romans and Greeks used complex water clocks called clepsydras. These machines used the steady drip of water to measure passing hours. Plato designed an infamous water clock to wake his students at dawn. It utilized a siphon system to release a sudden blast of pressurized air. This air rushed through a narrow lead tube, produced a shrill, terrifying whistle. Imagine waking up to a mechanical shriek in a silent stone academy. It was an early ancestor of modern morning terror. In medieval Europe, the Catholic Church became the first true master of human time. Monasteries required monks to pray at specific hours of the night. These prayers were known as the canonical hours. A designated monk had to stay awake to watch the stars or a candle clock. When the time arrived, he would vigorously ring the heavy iron abbey bells. This sound shattered the silence of the surrounding valleys. It forced hundreds of peasants to wake up in the pitch black. The church taught that sleep was a dangerous temptation. It was a state where the devil could easily whisper into a vulnerable soul. Vigorous waking was a spiritual duty. The natural rhythm of rest was slowly replaced by religious obedience. Meanwhile, across the globe, Asian empires developed their own aromatic methods. In ancient China and Japan, people relied on incense clocks. These devices were both beautiful and highly functional. Craftsmen created elaborate wooden or metal tracks. They filled these tracks with special incense powders of varying scents. As the incense slowly burned, the aroma changed to indicate the hour. To create an alarm, designers hung small bronze weights on threads over the burning path. When the fire reached the thread, it burned through the fiber. The heavy weights crashed onto a metal gong below. This sudden metallic clang startled the sleeper awake. It was a poetic but jarring intrusion of fire and metal. These early methods were expensive and rare. The average peasant still relied on the crow of the rooster. They also relied on the physical fullness of their own bladders. This was a self-regulating biological alarm system. People drank large quantities of water before going to bed. They knew their bodies would force them to wake up before dawn. This method was highly effective but physically uncomfortable. It kept the sleeper in a state of shallow, restless rest. Still, it was a voluntary choice. The individual remained in complete control of their own physical boundaries. Sleep was not yet a weapon of labor control. Everything changed when the first factories emerged in Great Britain. The steam engine demanded absolute, uninterrupted devotion. Heavy machinery did not care about the position of the sun. It did not care about the human sleep cycle. Factories needed thousands of workers to arrive at the exact same minute. The owners faced a massive logistical challenge. The peasant workforce had no concept of abstract hours. They did not own expensive gold pocket watches. To solve this problem, a bizarre new capitalist industry emerged. This was the era of the professional knocker-upper. A class of human alarms was born. In the damp slums of London and Manchester, hundreds of people earned a living by waking others. They were paid a few pence a week by desperate factory workers. These knocker-uppers walked through the dark, cobblestone streets before dawn. They carried long bamboo poles to reach the upper windows of tenement buildings. Some used heavy wooden mallets to beat on the doors. Others used long, hollow tubes to shoot dried green peas at the glass panes. And no, I'm not making that up. These pea shooters would pelt the windows until the exhausted worker waved back. The life of a knocker-upper was physically grueling. They had to wake up at 3 in the morning in freezing rain and thick smog. One famous knocker-upper was Mary Smith. She became a local legend in East London for her deadly pea-shooting accuracy. Another was Caroline Jane Cousin, who was known as the Granny of Limehouse. These people were human alarm clocks. They were the biological intermediaries between the worker and the factory gate. If a knocker-upper overslept, an entire street of workers would miss their shift. This would lead to instant dismissal and starvation. The pressure on these workers was immense. Factories imposed brutal fines for arriving even 5 minutes late. Some mills locked their iron gates precisely at 6 in the morning. Anyone left outside was locked out for the day. They lost a full day of wages. For a family living on the edge of survival, a single oversleep could mean eviction. Could mean the dreaded workhouse. This reality created a state of permanent, low-grade terror. Workers slept with one ear open, listening for the scrape of a bamboo pole. Their sleep was haunted by the fear of silence. They dreaded the quiet morning that signified their complete financial ruin. This system was highly inefficient for industrial capitalists. Human knocker-uppers were prone to illness, drunkenness, and human error. They could be bribed by workers who wanted to sleep in. They could also make mistakes and wake the wrong households. This caused immense friction in the industrial machine. Capitalists needed a reliable, standardized, and tireless solution. They needed a machine that could be placed inside every home. This machine would transfer the responsibility of waking from the employer to the employee. It was the ultimate dream of corporate efficiency. The stage was set for a mechanical takeover of the bedroom. The first breakthrough in this mechanical conquest occurred in Concord, New Hampshire. In the year 1787, a humble clockmaker named Levi Hutchins faced a personal dilemma. He was a deeply religious man who believed in the spiritual value of early rising. He needed to wake up at precisely 4 in the morning for his daily devotions. However, he frequently slept past his desired hour. This failure filled him with deep spiritual anxiety and guilt. To solve his personal crisis, Hutchins constructed a unique brass clock. He fitted it with an extra gear that tripped a small lever at 4. This lever struck a heavy brass bell. Hutchins had successfully invented the first American mechanical alarm clock. Yet, his machine had a bizarre and highly restrictive limitation. Could only ring at 4 in the morning. The time was permanently fixed into the brass gears. Could not be adjusted for any other hour of the day. Hutchins was a simple craftsman, not a ruthless capitalist. He did not care about mass production. He refused to patent his invention. He believed that waking at 4 was a universal moral duty. He did not see any value in helping people sleep late. Hutchins lived a long, quiet, and relatively obscure life. He died without making a single penny from his revolutionary concept. He viewed his invention merely as a personal tool for spiritual discipline. He did not foresee how his idea would be weaponized by industrial forces. This was the tragedy of the early clockmakers. They were gentle artisans obsessed with cosmic order and mechanical harmony. They did not realize they were constructing the digital handcuffs of the future. Their quiet workshops were soon swallowed by the roaring engines of the industrial age. Local craftsmanship was crushed by mass manufacturing. 60 years later, the focus shifted to the bustling streets of Paris. Antoine Redier was a brilliant horologist with a passion for precision. In 1847, he solved the limitation that had restricted Hutchins. Redier designed a clock with an adjustable alarm dial. For the first time, a user could choose their own hour of awakening. Redier was a man of the Enlightenment. He believed his invention was a triumph of personal freedom. He thought it would allow individuals to organize their lives with scientific precision. He hoped it would bring order to the chaotic lives of modern citizens. Redier's patent was a masterpiece of mechanical engineering. It used a secondary spring to power the alarm hammer independently. This allowed for a louder, more sustained ring. The clock was a marvel of miniature brass casting. But Redier was an inventor, not a corporate strategist. He lacked the capital to manufacture his clocks on a massive scale. He watched helplessly as larger companies copied his designs. They made minor modifications to bypass his patents. Redier struggled to maintain his financial independence. He eventually died in relative obscurity, his name forgotten by the masses who used his invention. The true exploitation of the alarm clock occurred across the Atlantic. In the valleys of Connecticut, American industrialists saw a golden opportunity. Men like Eli Terry and Seth Thomas pioneered the mass production of clocks. They abandoned the slow, meticulous methods of traditional clockmaking. Instead, they introduced interchangeable wooden and metal parts. They used water-powered machinery to stamp out thousands of gears a day. This dropped the price of a clock from a fortune to a few dollars. The mechanical alarm clock was no longer a luxury for the rich. It became a cheap, ubiquitous household appliance. The bedroom was officially conquered. This mass production was accompanied by a tragic human cost. The workers in the Connecticut clock factories lived under brutal conditions. They worked 12 hours a day in poorly lit, dusty factories. Ironically, they were forced to wake up by the very clocks they were assembling. The factory floors were deafeningly loud. The air was thick with metal dust and lubricating oil. Many workers suffered from chronic respiratory diseases. They died young, their lungs clogged with brass shavings. They sacrificed their health to produce the instruments of their own daily enslavement. Their labor bought their own chains. The clock corporations grew fabulously wealthy on this misery. They established massive distribution networks across the globe. They sent salesmen into every small town and rural community. These salesmen convinced people that traditional ways of life were primitive. They argued that a modern, successful citizen must own a clock. They made the alarm clock a symbol of social status and intelligence. To live without a clock was to be labeled a lazy peasant. This marketing campaign was incredibly successful. It created a psychological demand where none had previously existed. The natural concept of time was systematically destroyed. It was replaced by corporate schedules. The small-scale, independent watchmakers could not compete with this industrial juggernaut. Thousands of local workshops closed down across Europe and America. The ancient art of handcrafting unique timepieces was destroyed. It was replaced by a sterile, standardized manufacturing process. Time itself became standardized. Before this era, every town had its own local time based on the sun. Now, the railways and factories demanded a unified, national time. The organic flow of local life was crushed under the weight of the standard clock. The machine of progress had no patience for local sunrises. This standardization had a profound impact on the human psyche. It separated people from the natural world. It created a new, artificial reality governed by tick marks and metal bells. People began to view their lives as a series of hourly segments. They measured their worth by their ability to keep up with the clock. The mechanical alarm clock became the policeman of the domestic sphere. It sat on the nightstand, a silent spy for the employer. It watched over the sleeping worker, waiting to scream them back to work. Human biology was finally defeated. Pay attention to this next detail because it explains everything. The alarm clock did not solve our lateness problem. Instead, it allowed corporations to lengthen the working day without paying for it. By placing the clock in your bedroom, the factory owner effectively extended his workspace into your private home. He outsourced the cost of time management directly to you. It was a brilliant, cost-free corporate coup. If you appreciate these deep, cynical dives into the hidden machinery of our daily lives, please subscribe to this channel right now. We expose the secret history that power structures prefer to keep hidden. Now, let us return to the dark evolution of this mechanical tyrant. As the 19th century ended, the mechanical clock found a powerful ally in the military. During the American Civil War, generals realized they could not coordinate massive troop movements without precise timing. They ordered thousands of pocket watches and portable alarm clocks for their officers. A battle could be lost if a regiment arrived 10 minutes too late. The military required absolute, synchronized obedience to the second. This martial discipline was soon transferred to civilian life. Soldiers returned home with an ingrained habit of clock watching. They taught their children to respect the rigid authority of the mechanical dial. At the same time, factory owners realized that human bodies were highly inefficient machines. Unlike steam engines, humans required rest, food, and recreation. Capitalists viewed sleep as a waste of potential profit. Every hour a worker spent asleep was an hour the machinery sat completely idle. Since they could not eliminate sleep entirely, they sought to minimize it. They used the alarm clock to shave off every possible minute of rest. The morning alarm became a physical assault on the human nervous system. It dragged the worker from deep sleep directly into the exhausting rhythm of the production line. This mechanical intrusion soon received a highly sophisticated psychological upgrade. In the mid-20th century, the General Electric Telecom Company introduced a revolutionary feature. They called it the snooze alarm. It was marketed as a benevolent concession to the tired worker. It promised a few extra minutes of luxurious, guilt-free sleep. In reality, the snooze button was a masterstroke of psychological manipulation. It gave the worker a false illusion of control over their morning. They could delay the inevitable, but only for 9 minutes. This specific interval was determined by the physical limitations of the clock's plastic gears. The snooze button actually made waking up significantly more traumatic for the human brain. When a sleeper hits the snooze button, they plunge back into a new sleep cycle. This cycle is instantly shattered a few minutes later by another screeching alarm. This repetitive disruption causes a phenomenon known as sleep inertia. It leaves the individual feeling groggy, confused, and physically exhausted for hours. The body is caught in a state of neurological limbo. It is neither fully awake nor fully asleep. Yet, millions of people willingly subject themselves to this torture every morning. They pay to torture their own brains. The sounds of these alarms were also carefully engineered to induce panic. Early clocks used pleasant brass chimes or gentle music box mechanisms. However, manufacturers soon realized that gentle sounds were too easy to ignore. They began to design alarms that produced harsh, discordant, and irritating frequencies. The modern electric buzzer was specifically designed to mimic the sound of an emergency siren. It was engineered to trigger an immediate, raw fight-or-flight response in the sleeper. The heart rate spikes. Blood pressure rises rapidly. The body is flooded with stress hormones just to open its eyes. This morning chemical shock has devastating, long-term consequences for human health. Medical researchers have documented a terrifying statistical anomaly. More heart attacks occur on Monday mornings than at any other time of the week. The sudden transition from weekend relaxation to the screech of the Monday alarm is literally lethal. The cardiovascular system is simply not designed to handle such violent artificial shocks. The mechanical alarm clock is not just a tool for waking. It is a biological weapon that slowly degrades our hearts and shortens our lives. It kills us in the name of corporate punctuality. Think about that for a second. No other creature on Earth wakes up to a simulated emergency. Every other creature on this planet wakes up gradually and naturally. They respond to the gentle shifts of light and temperature. Only humans have built a society where survival requires a daily, self-inflicted panic attack. We have traded our physical health for corporate efficiency. We have accepted a lifestyle that is fundamentally hostile to our biological nature. We have normalized a daily tragedy. This artificial schedule completely reshaped the geography of our modern world. It dictated the architecture of our cities. Before the clock, people lived close to their places of work. But standard time allowed for the creation of the modern commuter suburb. Millions of people could now live miles away from their offices. They trusted that train schedules and highway networks would deliver them on time. This created the modern phenomenon of the morning rush hour. It is a massive, highly synchronized migration of stressed individuals. They sit in gridlock traffic, watching the minutes tick away with growing, deep dread. The fear of being late dictates our urban design. We build massive, multi-lane highways to accommodate the morning surge. We construct vast parking structures to house the vehicles of the punctual. Our cities are designed for cars that must arrive at 9, not for humans who wish to live peacefully. The entire layout of concrete and steel is a monument to the synchronized workday. It is a physical manifestation of the clock's absolute dominance. We live inside a giant, structural clockwork mechanism. This rigid scheduling also birthed massive secondary industries. The global coffee industry is a prime example of this economic dependency. Before the industrial age, coffee was a luxury beverage for intellectuals. Now, it is a vital fuel for the global workforce. Millions of people cannot function in the morning without a massive dose of caffeine. They use this stimulant to override the sleep deprivation caused by their alarms. Coffee companies like Starbucks have built multi-billion-dollar empires on this physical exhaustion. They sell the chemical antidote to the very schedule they help enforce. The energy drink market is another direct consequence of this chronic fatigue. Young workers and students consume highly concentrated liquid stimulants just to stay awake. They push their bodies past the limits of natural endurance. This constant stimulation creates a secondary crisis of insomnia. People are too wired to sleep when they finally have the chance. To solve this, they turn to the pharmaceutical industry for sleeping pills. This creates a perfect, highly profitable capitalist loop. You buy stimulants to wake up for work, and you buy sedatives to sleep for work. This loop is highly profitable for corporations, but disastrous for the individual. It reduces the human experience to a simple economic transaction. We have outsourced our most basic biological functions to chemical manufacturers. We no longer trust our bodies to know when to rest or when to wake. We have surrendered our physical autonomy to the market. The alarm clock was the gateway drug for this total corporate colonization of our bodies. It opened the door for every subsequent intrusion into our lives. This physical colonization is supported by a powerful moral narrative. Society has weaponized shame to enforce the rule of the clock. From a young age, we are taught that early risers are moral, productive, and successful. We are bombarded with proverbs about the early bird catching the worm. Conversely, those who sleep late are labeled as lazy, undisciplined, and worthless. This moral hierarchy is completely artificial. It ignores the natural variation in human chronotypes. Some people are naturally night owls, while others are morning larks. This is a genetic reality, not a moral choice. Yet, the modern workplace has no room for genetic diversity. It demands a single, standardized chronotype for everyone. The night owl is systematically punished by the standard 9-to-5 schedule. They are forced to work during their peak hours of fatigue. They are forced to sleep when their brains are most active. This constant mismatch leads to chronic sleep debt. It ruins their physical health and limits their professional success. They are made to feel like failures simply because their DNA does not align with the factory whistle. This moral shaming has been highly effective in preventing rebellion. People do not blame the system for their exhaustion. They blame themselves. They believe they are tired because they are lazy or weak. They buy self-help books and download productivity apps to help them wake up earlier. They participate in internet challenges that promote waking at 5 in the morning. They proudly post their morning routines on social media. They have fully internalized the values of their exploiters. They have become the enthusiastic guards of their own digital prison. The digital age has only intensified this psychological captivity. We have largely replaced the mechanical clock with the smartphone. This change appears to be a liberation. We can now choose gentle ringtones and smart alarms that track our sleep cycles. But this digital upgrade is a dangerous trap. The smartphone is a far more invasive spy than the old brass clock. It does not just wake us up. It immediately floods our waking minds with emails, news alerts, and social media notifications. The moment we turn off our alarm, we are connected to the global anxiety machine. We do not have a single second of peace before the world demands our attention. The smartphone alarm ensures that our first conscious thought is connected to our labor or digital consumption. It prevents us from experiencing the gentle, reflective state between sleeping and waking. This state was once a fertile ground for human creativity and spiritual insight. Now, it is instantly obliterated by a wave of digital noise. Even our sleep itself has been monetized by modern technology. We wear smartbands and watches that track our sleep stages. We upload our intimate physiological data to corporate servers. These devices analyze our heart rates, our breathing, and our movements. They tell us if we slept well or poorly. We no longer trust our own feelings of restedness. We look at an app to determine if we are tired. If the app says we slept poorly, we feel fatigued. We have surrendered our self-awareness to an algorithm. This total surrender of body ownership is the ultimate triumph of the capitalist system. It represents the complete integration of human biology into the global machine. Every aspect of our lives is now synchronized to the millisecond. The financial markets in New York, London, and Tokyo operate on precise schedules. Billions of dollars move across the globe instantly. This global trade requires a vast network of awake, alert, and highly stressed workers. The archivist slowly closes his heavy folio. We are still trapped in Antoine Redier's mechanical dream of 1847. Our systems evolve, but our biological vulnerability remains unchanged. If this journey surprised you, subscribe to the channel. Click the video on your screen to delve deeper.